Welcome back, everybody. It is week 3. It is time for your NFL power rankings. Week 2 gave us a lot of confusion on a lot of teams. We also confirmed some are still really bad, some are who we thought they were, and others, yeah, they're just pathetic. Um, Speaking of pathetic, starting at number 32 with the Atlanta Falcons. Last week we had them at 32 as well. Nothing's really changed here. Their defense is an absolute abomination. Matt Ryan was just giving touchdowns to Tampa Bay left and right. And if a bogus penalty didn't get called on one of his interceptions thrown for a touchdown, the result could have been even worse. But speaking of bogus officiating, we have more to get to that later. But anyway, number 31, we got the Texans. We had them at 29 last week, and the Texans with Tyrod Taylor would have been a little bit higher than this because I thought they were going to upset the Browns for a little bit there during that first half. Tyrod gets hurt, as he always does. In comes Davis Mills, firing inaccurate passes left and right, and now he's starting on Thursday. This is an easy fade for me. The Texans with Tyrod Taylor were fringe worst team in the league. Now they're by far the worst team in the league, but they still have a winner schedule, Falcons don't. So that's the only reason I'm putting them at 31. Number 30, the New York Giants. Just a bad organization all around, and it's really showing right now. Their draft picks aren't panning out. Their players are undisciplined despite running laps the entire summer. That's all we heard about. Shouldn't they be the most disciplined team in the league? I don't know. Maybe it is me as a Giants fan venting out my frustrations, but as soon as Daniel Jones has a game that he doesn't commit turnovers, the defense stinks. Couldn't stop Taylor Heineke. That's why I got the Giants at 30. The Jaguars at 29. I have them moving up a spot actually, but kind of by default because I moved the Texans down 2 spots, and it's obviously that loss to the Texans was not good, but it's hard to discredit them for what happened at Denver because I'm really high on Denver. I like their defense and a good head coach, a good defensive minded head coach, such as Vic Fangio, is always going to win a battle against a rookie quarterback. But down the line, Trevor Lawrence is going to have better games, and I still see the Jaguars getting 4 or 5 wins here. They're not going to be one of the worst teams. Uh, the Jets at 28. The Jets defense isn't awful, and obviously Zach Wilson, horrific performance, but he was going against Bill Belichick. Can we see better performances down the line? I think so, definitely. But it's definitely a big concern when you have you have almost as many interceptions as you completions through a certain point, which Wilson did. And the remaining of the bottom teams, the Detroit Lions at 27. I said it last week that the Lions are the best of the trash, essentially. And they showed it again in that first half. They looked like they were going to give the Packers a game till the very end. Now, I didn't think they were going to win, but that offensive game plan in the second half was awful. They called almost no run plays after they were gashing Green Bay left and right with both their running backs. And Jared Goff had a pretty good first half too, but they shied away from it, and eventually Aaron Rodgers took over. But I can still see the Lions hanging tough in games here with their offense and with their usually good head coaching. Number 26, the Minnesota Vikings. Now, it's kind of unfair because I would have had them higher on this list had they beaten the Cardinals, but they didn't come away with the win, and their major issues are still glaring, as in their offensive line and their defense. And not to mention, sure, they missed a field goal that would have given win, but Kyler also threw a horrible pick six that a throw that he should not be making. So I'm keeping the Vikings at 26. Bengals week 20, Bengals at 25. So one guy I really like to listen to is Nick Ercolano, and he made a really good point when talking about fantasy players that if the week 2 results happened in week 1, we'd have a totally different opinion. And the Bengals are a good example of that. Now you get the Bengals who looked good on offense week 1, against the hapless Vikings team, and all of a sudden, oh, their problems are fixed. But then they go against the Bears, a defense that's not even the same as what they used to be, and put up a dud. So Bengals, they got to fix their offensive line issues real bad. Eagles at 24, they actually had a rather impressive first half against the 49ers. And throughout the game, actually, they outgained them in total yards and yards per play. It's just that their red zone finishing is terrible. I don't know why they still think running a Philly special 4 years after the Super Bowl would work, but yeah, that's not going to happen. But good game, I guess, against the 49ers, hanging tough. Number 23, the Carolina Panthers. They're 2-0. Why would I put them so low? Who have they beaten? They beat Zach Wilson in his first career start against that shaky offensive line. And then they go play the Saints, who are missing pretty much their entire coaching staff. I don't care how good your head coach is. If you don't have all those guys helping you on the sidelines, your game plan is going to come up short. And that's exactly what happened. Now, this is very interesting. The Panthers are 2-0 right now. And then they play Houston on Thursday. So against Davis Mills. They're very likely to go 3-0. And then over the next 6 weeks, they're playing, I don't know what order, but they're playing like the Giants, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Vikings. They're playing six very mediocre to below average teams over the next 6 weeks. This team could wind up with a 7-2, 8-1 record by the time they get to playing Arizona. And then everyone's going to be talking about, oh my God, Sam Darnold's here. The Panthers are here. And that's when I'll be betting against them. Anyway, number 22, Miami Dolphins. With Tua out, it didn't really seem like they had much of a chance with Jacoby Brissett. But then again, he couldn't get any blocking anyway. So if Tua's not ready to go, then I don't think the Dolphins are going to be winning very many games. And it's kind of weird because we wouldn't have said that last year. Number 21, the Indianapolis Colts offensive line is an absolute shambles. And now Carson Wentz is injured again. Carson Wentz is also very fragile. Now, this is not about the Colts play being at 21 because they actually hung very tough with the Rams, who are one of my favorites this year. And they're going to have Xavier Rhodes and Quentin Nelson should be healthier soon. So those guys should be coming back. But if Jacob Eason is starting, this team's not winning many games. Bottom line. Chicago Bears at 20. I am so excited to see Justin Fields finally in action. He's going to be a massive upgrade of over Andy Dalton. Might take some time for him to get in the swing of things, but there's definitely a team on the rise. Although I didn't think they played all that well against the Bengals, they did just enough to be the better team there. At number 19, I have the Washington football team, whose defense is looking a little shaky now. That was just supposed to be a strength for this team, but now their offense is looking like the better part. Uh, I'm going to chalk it up to it being a Thursday night game and maybe you guys weren't rested and you're a little fatigued, but it's something to watch going forward because I have Washington still as my favorite to win division, but not if the defense plays like this because that's their biggest strength. Number 18, the Patriots are moving up 3 spots to number 18 from the 21. Uh, Good win against the Jets. Really just shows you how Bill Belichick is still a mastermind, and having him on the sidelines is an advantage. And frankly, with the way the Bills have been playing, which is not the most amazing, the Patriots could win this division. It's totally not out of the question. It's all up to how much Mac Jones develops. Last team in the bottom half is a big team. Is a team that is moving down a lot of spots. Just give me 1 second here. Lost some track. The Steelers. I had them at number 9 last week. They're all the way down to 17, and it's for a multitude of reasons. But those multitude of reasons are mostly injuries. Their whole defense suffered injuries on Sunday. The biggest one being T.J. Watt. When T.J. Watt left the game, the Raiders could not stop moving the ball on the Steelers. Add the fact in that the Steelers' offensive line can't pass protect at all. Ben Roethlisberger looks like a grandpa out there. The Steelers could be in trouble, and they could be in trouble soon as all these injuries pile up. So starting out the top half, I have the Cowboys at 16. I mentioned earlier that there were a lot of games that were fixed. Well, not fixed, but maybe they were. Poor officiating. The Cowboys Chargers was the worst of them all. The Cowboy. It seemed like every time the Chargers got a big play on the Cowboys, it would get taken away from them by some bogus penalty. The worst penalty was Justin Herbert's sack late in the game when he wasn't even in the grasp and they called him down. That's not to take away from the Cowboys. I think the reason I have them higher is because their defense played much better. They had a couple of red zone picks on Justin Herbert. So the defense might not be as bad as last year's, which could propel them to win this week division. But don't credit this win too much. There was a lot of tomfoolery. Number 15, the New Orleans Saints. I'm not knocking them down too much. I did knock them down 4 spots from number 11, but they're missing their entire coaching staff. Like I said before, it's really hard to win in those circumstances, and I think the Saints will be now underrated as a result, as people see this and think Jameis Winston's going to be wildly consistent. Not they have better game plans going forward. Number 14, one of my biggest movers is the Raiders from 22 to 14. Now, keep in mind, the Raiders have battled two injury-plagued teams, the Ravens and the Steelers. Steelers got mostly injured in-game. But this offense does look really nice. I'm still concerned about the offensive line. The defense still isn't that great, but Max Crosby is really starting to emerge as an elite pass rusher. And they haven't had anything like that since Khalil Mack left. So good signs for the Raiders. Number 13, the Titans, another team that was almost victimized by poor officiating. Really bad. I mean, there were uh, there were 8 points that the refs left off the board for the Titans. Somehow I'm sure you've seen Julio's touchdown got taken back. I don't know how that happened. And then you also have the safety in the in overtime. How like it boggles my mind, but Derrick Henry is an absolute beast, and he was missing two offensive linemen. I don't know how he does it, but he will always give the Titans a competitive advantage. Number 12, the Broncos. The Broncos have also beaten a couple poor teams in the Giants and Jaguars, and now they're playing the Jets. But the difference between them and the Panthers is that their team is already legitimate in every facet, and even their quarterback now, Bridgewater, he's playing well enough to lead his team as a serious playoff contender. As their defense keep playing the way they are, and the playmakers keep making plays, don't be surprised if they make some noise against teams like the Chiefs and Chargers in that division, and the Raiders too, I guess. Wow, these West divisions are unbelievable this year. Number 11, got the Packers. The Packers have had one good half of football this entire year. I still believe in Aaron Rodgers, but I don't believe in that offensive line or defense, especially the defense. The Lions are running all over the Packers, and they just abandoned the run, and then Green Bay kind of cruised from there. But I have concern for them against good opponents, such as the 49ers this coming week. Seahawks at number 10. The Seahawks defense is the same concern that I thought it would be. They played better against the Colts last week, but it's what's going to hold them back. And even though Russell Wilson has the best offensive line he's played of in years, it's still just this defense. This defense is just horrendous, and they let Derrick Henry run all over them when he was missing Taylor Lewan and Roger Saffold. I'm going to take a water break real quick. Jeez. We are we are rapid firing today. That was milk, by the way. It wasn't water. I lied. Anyway, number 9, the Chargers. For obvious reasons, I am not discounting their performance because ref ball, but it was concerning to see Justin Herbert's Justin Herbert's poor decision making in the red zone. And besides all the touchdowns that got taken back from them, that kind of cost them the game too. But I really can't say more than that because just go watch the highlights of that game, watch all the flags they threw. It was a mess. Number 8, the 49ers, who got kind of outplayed by the Eagles and were almost a little lucky to win that game. But if anything, it shows you the kind of playmakers they have, especially on defense, that they were able to make all those goal line stands to keep the Eagles from taking over the lead. And honestly, most of the Eagles' production came off a big play, such as that 91-yard bomb. Uh, I expected better days for the 49ers ahead. You got to give big credit to the Ravens, moving up 7 spots to number 7 for beating the Chiefs at home. Did they get lucky? Absolutely. But Lamar did a great job of recovering after it looked like it was going to be a disaster of a game when he threw that pick six in the beginning. But still, the Ravens' injuries are piling up. Can this team stay competitive in the long run? Maybe they'll stay competitive, but division I still think is in the Browns' hands. Number 6, I moved down the Cardinals a couple spots to number 6 to because of the way their defense struggled. The defense didn't really struggle against the Titans as we know Chandler Jones beast that game, but the Vikings came out firing, and it looked like the Cardinals weren't going to be able to stop the Vikings pretty early on. And Kyler Murray has to not make bonehead decisions like once he did with the pick six and just giving the Vikings 3 points. It almost cost them the game. It would have cost them the game, and it would be the story had the Vikings kicker not missed that field goal. Moving into the top 5, I have the Bills in number 5, and I have faith in the Bills that they'll get it together. But there was talk in the offseason about potential Josh Allen regression, and I kind of blew it off saying he's getting haters, he's legit, but his first 2 games have not been that impressive. And people are going to see this 35-0 game and think, oh, the Bills are back. I'd be cautious because Josh Allen was still didn't really have that great of a game. He mostly relied on the Dolphins' incompetence and the running game in this one. But we'll have to monitor the situation as the season goes on. And now we're in the top 4, and even the Browns, number 4, who I still think is one of the best teams in the AFC, right behind the Chiefs. They struggled with the Texans of all teams. I couldn't tell if the Texans were better than we thought they were, if the Browns were coming off limp after an emotional game against the Chiefs. It was a little concerning, but in the end of the day, they're a fourth quarter team because they've got the running game. They can wear teams out, and that's going to prove valuable down the stretch. My top 3, Bucks, Chiefs, Rams, is staying the same. So the Rams at number 3 kind of got outplayed by the Colts. They did, but they made the big plays, and such as their multiple goal line stands against Carson Wentz, albeit Carson Wentz had one really horrible turnover where he just shoveled it right into a Rams defender. But the Stafford to Cup connection is looking like one of the best in the league, and I'm really excited for this incoming shootout against the Bucks. Before we get to the Bucks, let's talk about the Chiefs, who lost, but I'm not moving them down at all because they were in a position to win had they not fumbled at the end. And you give like 9 out of 10, maybe not 9 out of 10, maybe like 8 out of 10 games replayed Chiefs Ravens. The Chiefs win that game almost 80% of the time. The Chiefs, their defense is going to be a problem, but a little bit. But when you have Patrick Mahomes and all the weapons he has with Andy Reid, this team is still going to win 14 plus games. Let's not overreact too much. And number 1, we have the Bucks, who have dominated the first 2 games, but keep in mind this was also against poor competition in Dallas, comparatively poor, and the Falcons, who are our worst team in the league. Can the Bucks replicate this against the Rams? I think they can, and I think both teams will be very competitive. But until we start saying Bucks 17-0 or anything crazy like that, this game will determine a lot about how far they go this season. Thank you for staying with me. This is almost 20 minutes of content, but I'm glad you guys stayed with me. NFL Power Rankings are complete. NFL picks are coming up. Now we can take a look at our slate tomorrow and see what teams are overrated and underrated based on the spreads that Vegas gives us. This is Shoop Sports, signing out.